The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Well, it was really just my subconscious. It was a feeling I had. You know, like people were taught how to think. We're taught how to feel. We don't know how to think for ourselves. We don't know how to feel for ourselves. People say feel free, but they don't really want us to feel free. And I felt a freedom in, first of all, just doing something that everybody tells you not to do. I just love Trump. That's my boy. Like, you know, it's like so many rappers. You'll look at a video of Snoop Dogg loving Trump, but then he get in the office and now they don't love him. Like, Trump is one of rap's favorite people, right?
All right, so I'm joined by the fellas. Just a small portion of the group that I kind of kick it with and DMs. And I had to bring them in to talk about this Kanye West story because, I can't do it by myself. There's some things that are so stupid and so egregious that you have to call for backup on. So I'm joined by my boy Miles Q and Aaron. Aaron, I won't say your last name just in case you need to stay low profile. But fellas, thanks so much for joining me. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Just over here. I got time today. I think it's important that we talk about this subject, and I really appreciate that you brought me on.
Oh, absolutely. Aaron, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good, guys. Here to talk about Kanye being Kanye again.
So let's talk about it. Let's jump into it. So the first clip, and I want to play this first clip for the audience. This is Kanye West when he said, he literally uttered these words that slavery for 400 years was a choice. Let's take a listen into that clip real quick.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. It's like slavery, Holocaust Jews, slavery is blacks.
What's your first reaction to that? I want to go to Q first. What's your first reaction to that?
All right, so my first reaction to everything, but specifically this, is just the fact that Kanye has consistently labeled himself as like this free thinker as of late, but he's always labeled himself as this guy who's so above everybody, and he's put himself in a space where he thinks he's better than everyone because he knows stuff about Walt Disney and Henry Ford and all these things, right? So when I hear this comment, it doesn't do anything in terms of surprising me, but I guess I can say that as a guy who grew up listening to Kanye West, like I was actually probably like 9 or 10 years old when I first heard College Dropout. For a person who grew up listening to Kanye, for a person who saw him say everything about George Bush on the telethon, this is very not surprising as of his political development, but I guess I could say, like a lot of people, man, I was hurt.
Yeah.
But we've seen the evolution of Kanye West as a figure going from somebody who rapped about his mother being arrested at sit-ins to wearing Confederate flags on his tour merchandise and selling it to a crowd of white people who are the majority of his audience.
Right.
So for Kanye to talk about slavery being a choice, I'm not so surprised at all, man. Like, this is really just who Kanye West is. He does everything for shock value. And I think that we need to get away from expecting Kanye West as a person to align with the image that we once created in our minds of him when he first came out. Kanye West is gone. That whole George Bush doesn't care about black people, Kanye has been dead. So for Kanye to talk about slavery being a choice, it's completely asinine. It's completely just ahistorical.
Right.
But from another standpoint, as a fan, it's just extremely disheartening to see a person that people put up on this pedestal take himself off of it year after year after year. And it's completely reached a boiling point where I want nothing more to do with Kanye West.
Absolutely. Aaron, what are your first thoughts when you heard that as a fan or from any perspective?
So yeah, like you, I'm a fan of Kanye West's music. I'm a person who can like compartmentalize, him as a person and like the quality of his music. Having said that, his statement was egregious. And with these recent Kanye antics, I'm starting to look back over his career in the spotlight and I'm starting to wonder if he was like ever genuine. Because even back during the whole Hurricane Katrina fallout, when he was saying, George Bush doesn't care about black people, I'm starting to wonder if like Kanye was merely saying that just to be contrarian and to just be provocative.
Right. I was gonna say that's actually a good theory, because how do you most people, when they have a political or social awakening, they usually they become more evolved. Kanye has devolved, and your theory actually would make sense. Maybe he was just putting on a show then, and he's putting on a show now. So he's finding a contrarian position to elevate his voice, just like he did with jumping in there with Taylor Swift, who, regardless of her music, it was an opportunity for him to get up there and make more controversy. So, but the thing about him doing it here, and I want to get your input, both of you, on this, is that it is so dangerous. It is particularly dangerous to anyone of African descent, of the African diaspora, right? It's dangerous because it's divisive. Number one, I've seen people run with the narrative of, black African Americans didn't do it like Haitians, you know what I mean? Because Haiti, set themselves free. Yeah, but still, there's always, if you break that apart, that argument falls completely apart. But Kanye has entered this into the national conversation, and he's emboldening white supremacists. He's emboldening right-wing conservatives, and he's causing division amongst Africans, people of the African descent. Let's go to Q and then Euclid. Give me your response on that.
Yeah, man, I'm a Pan-Africanist through and through. Sekou Touré and Kwame Touré and Kwame Nkrumah are like my guiding lights and my guiding principles of Pan-Africanism. And number one thing I do not do is I don't engage in the diaspora wars. I just don't do it. It's just completely asinine to me for people to be damn near subjugated across the entire globe, arguing about who is the least subjugated, or who has the most culture, or who has the best, whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me how we can look at the Haitian Revolution and use that as ammo against black people in America. Right. When the fact of the matter is that if you understood Pan-Africanism, or even if you didn't agree with it, but you just understood one of the basic principles, is that you're not African because you can trace your history back to Africa. This is Kwame Nkrumah saying this. You're African because Africa is born within you. Everything that you have, everything that you know, a lot of our traditions are still West African. Now, people will get into the semantics. I know Aaron has different views on that, and that's cool. But the number one principle of Pan-Africanism is that we are all African people. We can have our different flags. We can have our different countries. We can have our songs. We can have our different cultures. But at the end of the day, the Haitian Revolution, that's an African victory for everyone across the diaspora, because the effects of that victory was felt in every single corner of this globe. Right. You look at Nat Turner, you look at Denmark Vesey. Where do you think Denmark Vesey was trying to take the slaves to? Right. They weren't Haitian. Who do you think Nat Turner told the people that captured him? Who inspired you, Nat Turner? Oh, Toussaint Louverture. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So for Kanye to say this, I'm not engaging in the diaspora war. Right. It's incredibly dangerous, and it's incredibly disingenuous that Kanye West has now found himself in a space where he is courting this white supremacist mouthpiece, people like Candace Owens. I'm pretty sure we'll get on her. Yep. But he's courting these people under the guise of being a free thinker, engaging in quote unquote free thought. Well, Kanye, free thought that isn't tied to any principle, any guiding light, any theoretical or historical frameworks is reactionary. Right. Because you're just thinking out loud. That has nothing to do with your material reality. All you're saying is these just egregious statements that have no theoretical framework to it. And just no historical basis either. To say all the comments that he said in the last couple of days, I know I'm rambling, but I'm gonna end it here, is that it doesn't make any sense how a man can go from saying all those things early on in his career to saying it now. And for him to grandstand against everybody who's, calling him out and saying that I'm being attacked because I'm asserting free ideas. Right. It's just another right wing talking point.
Absolutely.
you all don't like my ideas. No, we don't like the fact that you're just ignorant as hell and you're not using any theoretical or historical framework to back these free thoughts.
Let me go to Aaron on this, because Aaron, you made a good point about this last week in our chat. You said that right wingers try to own the idea of free thinking. Tell us more about that in context of everything Q just said.
Yeah, you'll see people like Candace Owens, like Tommy Sotomayor. I don't have a problem name dropping people, and now apparently Kanye West, who will try to they'll try to represent it as if, because they take positions that are quote unquote conservative, that they are free thinkers, in distinction from the other lowly Negroes who are on the Democratic plantation,
right,
who take views that are left of center.
Mm-hmm.
For one, they almost always erase Black voices in particular who are left of the Democratic Party.
Right.
But then they also pretentiously like to assert that because like other Black people predominantly vote Democrat, then that means they're not free thinkers. They're a part of a groupthink hive mind,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have legitimate reasons for taking the political positions and social positions that they do.
Mm. Mm. And that go ahead, finish that thought.
And to piggyback off of what Q was saying, one of the most irritating things that has come about from all of this is that now he's also emboldened other Black people who, for whatever reason, like to identify with like the Hotep nationalist movement or whatever.
Yeah.
And like to embolden other Black people who, for whatever reason, might not have positive views of African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come out and they express that Kanye has a point, which he doesn't.
Doesn't.
That slavery somehow for 400 years was a choice because Haiti, for example, was able to revolt against their slave masters,
Mm-hmm.
completely stripping the historical context from that revolution. You know, the fact that they outnumbered their slave masters first and foremost.
I mean, there's so many things that people who are picking that up, and Q, I like the way you put it, right? You're not going to engage in the diaspora wars because it's completely fruitless, and it actually is detrimental to all of us across the board. It's not like your masters are going to love you more because you poo-poo or shit on Black people, other Black people. But that's the key to being accepted in conservatism, right? For all these Black people who now think that they're quote unquote free thinkers because they left the quote unquote Democratic plantation, there's only one specific type of Black person that Republicans and conservatives would tolerate, or even not respect, but give you a pat on the back and pat on the head. And that's if you're the Black person who attacks other Black people. If you're willing to do that, then you could shoot to the top of the heap, just like Candace Owens did, like who before she turned and took the red pill, quote unquote, she was just as liberal as anybody else, but she found a way to go to the top of the financial mountain by hating and deriding other Black people. And so to me, who's really on the plantation here? Someone who is challenges their party, or don't even consider the Democrats your party. You're so far left, you're Green Party, or you're part of the Socialist Workers Party. You're not even a part of the Democratic Party. Who's really the free thinker? Those people are the individuals who simply doing the bidding of white supremacy.
Yeah, see, this is the biggest thing that that gets on my nerves, is the fact that what Kanye West is doing, I kind of want to take this someplace, but I'm not going to go as far as I want, where it's like, what Kanye West is doing is not really that far off from what a lot of rappers do. And I think we honestly have to have this conversation about the fact that you have so many, there is a Black misleadership class, not only in politics, but there's a Black misleadership class within hip hop. Where we have so many problematic rappers that hold themselves up as free thinkers or revolutionaries or people that have the answers. They have catapulted themselves into authority positions. So you have people like Kanye West, who through his entire career has sought the attention, the affection, and the acceptance of white people. If you look at it throughout his entire career, that has been the number one constant thing about Kanye West, is that whether it's him throwing temper tantrums at award shows, whether it's him talking about how Steve Jobs is his favorite person and Walt Disney is his favorite idol, or whether he's talking about the fact that he loves Henry Ford and the assembly line, and how his idols are all these rich, dead white guys. Or you can go to the fact that, like I said earlier, putting Confederate flags on his merchandise, or the fact that his ticket sales are so incredibly high. His ticket prices are so incredibly high that it marginalizes an entire sect of his fan base that is black and poor, or black and lower middle class.
Right.
And his entire shows are made up of white people. You can look at the fact that Kanye West charges over $700 for his sneakers.
Wow.
You can look at the fact that Kanye West is upset that Mark Zuckerberg won't take a meeting with him, but people in Chicago have been begging Kanye West to come to the South Side and put on a show. You can look at the fact that Asada's daughters are the people out there putting community gardens in motion out there, while Kanye West sits and talks about how black people kill black people in Chicago, so I guess we should stop having a victim mentality. See, what Kanye West has done is he's positioned himself as the black mouthpiece for white supremacy. And that is exactly the space that right-wingers love to give a platform to. Yep. Like you said, Ben, and just like Aaron said, is that you have people like Tommy, you have people like Candace, and then I would arguably say that all of the Hotep movement, they're just black conservatives and black fascists as well, adjacent, but they guise it under the disguise of a black nationalist, black radical class, and they're not that at all. Kanye West is not free thinking. Kanye West is regurgitating white supremacist talking points. He's regurgitating right-wing talking points. Kanye West sounds like Ronald Reagan in that TMZ clip. And the fact that you have black people defending it,
right,
is just utterly mind-blowing to me. And it shows that this cult of celebrity that we have within this, on this land, on this stolen land, in this nation, it shows that the cult of celebrity makes it, for me, a choice where I cannot separate the art from the artist, because hip-hop has become pop culture.
Right.
Artists move social consciousness.
Yeah.
So for me to just say that, oh, Kanye West, he's just an artist and I can separate what he's saying now from his art, I cannot do that.
Right.
Because you look at the fact that rappers are the new pop culture. Rappers move social consciousness. The fact that when Jay-Z says something and it becomes, a meme and people start to use it within the everyday vocabulary, or the fact that we actually say the word Issa because 21 Savage said it in an interview and it's become part of the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Or you look at the fact that Kanye West wears skinny jeans and then guess what? A whole generation of kids wear skinny jeans. The fact that Jay-Z preaches black capitalism and now everyone's on this whole bank black BS. Or the fact that Killer Mike can go on the NRA and say whatever he wants to say, and there are people that defend him.
Right.
We affect the social consciousness. Angela Davis told me that.
Yeah.
She came to my school and she said that artists have the ability to dream up futures that we, the activists and organizers, do not have the imagination to do so. So I cannot, in a capitalist society, separate the fact that what Kanye West is saying is going to affect the material reality for black people, and not only in Chicago, but damn near worldwide, because of what he's saying right now is inspiring so many diasporic wars on the timeline. And I know that Twitter is an echo chamber, but there is a conversation to be had about the fact that rappers and just entertainers and celebrities in general affect our social consciousness more than the policymakers do.
Absolutely. But see, it does matter on Twitter. It's over on Facebook, and people are taking a stand on this. Maybe they have these ideas already. Maybe they see that there has always been ongoing diaspora war to greater or lesser extents, right? There are people who and I've done an entire show about it, right? I've had people from Haiti and Jamaica look at me and say that I, as an African American, have no culture, and I'm like, never mind the fact that you're just, it's ahistorical. You're just completely wrong. But the fact that you have that thinking towards another black person becomes a problem in the black community. And so maybe these people thought these things already, but they are all taken to their platforms on Facebook, on Twitter, on Snap, everywhere, and parroting what they're hearing from Kanye West. So now Kanye West has planted a very negative seed is not even enough to describe it, but that's all I have right now, right? He's planted this seed of negativity in the black community that is supported by white supremacy and is spreading. So we have a responsibility. Like, this is not just pop culture that we're talking about here. We're talking about the material well-being of black people across the globe, and it's being affected by this dude who thinks he's woke all of a sudden. And it's like, my friend from Harvard, Leah Rigour, she said, it's like we're having to sit back and watch Kanye learn the basic tenets of conservatism, but we're all having to suffer the ramifications of it, right? So we're all across the globe being subjected to this dude as he learns basic stuff, even if it's like you said, Aaron, even if just opportunistically, he's still doing it, and we're all having to suffer through it because now he's empowering a narrative that is so detrimental to black people in general, but divisive along the lines of the diaspora wars, like Q said. But Aaron, I want you to jump in there. Just out of everything that we said, do you honestly, what are your thoughts? I don't even want to lead in. What do you think at this point?
What I think at this point, I think we need to stop looking at rappers to be leaders of social movements. Because as Q eloquently pointed out, he said this a lot better than I ever could. A lot of rappers hold beliefs that are very problematic.
Yep.
And I actually want to direct this to Q's Twitter thread that he tweeted last night, I think, about like how a lot of rappers, like namely Kendrick Lamar, he's one. Of course, Kanye is one now. Killer Mike is one. You can throw in Nipsey Hussle, who have these very dangerous and sometimes even anti-black beliefs that they like to also put in their music, but also put forth in their interviews.
Right.
And the issue with Kanye in particular is that he's selling this narrative that the positions that he's taking are somehow against the grain. And because they're against the grain, that means they're more valid or they're more correct.
Right.
When the reality of the matter is, Kanye is throwing his support behind someone who was he was the nominee of one of the two mainstream political parties in this country.
Right.
Throwing your support behind Donald Trump, that's a mainstream position, Kanye. Right. You are not going against the grain by doing so, nor does that make you more correct than people who don't.
Right. It's neither counterculture nor is it correct, right? That's what he's trying to say. He's saying that simply because I'm a black person that supports Donald Trump. Nah, man, like some of the dumbest people I know are black people who support Donald Trump. But don't get me wrong, there's some people who support the Democratic side. Like, excuse me, I had an issue when the black preachers who came out in support of Donald Trump, and I had the same issue with black preachers who came out in support of Hillary Clinton. And so if you're really trying to be counterculture, there's a lane for you to do that, but it's not picking one of the two major parties and resting in the full blown support of all of their millions of supporters across this country. So what Kanye is doing is neither counterculture nor is it correct. And it's so detrimental to many people. I have a white producer who a friend of mine, and he even commented, right, like how disturbing this was to him, to the point where he's a kid who grew up with Kanye West, loved Kanye West, but now he feels like he absolutely will not listen to Kanye West anymore because he sees what's happening. And I hope maybe that's the only thing good that can come out of this, is that Kanye's not as smart as he thinks he is, right? I think that he really believes, I had to listen to that Ye versus the People with T.I. because it's my job. I tried not to give him any clicks, but I had to. And in that video, he said that he took the MAGA hat and he gave it empathy and love. And I'm like, no, brother, you are overestimating your ability to change things. You do not have the ability to erase all of the hatred that's affiliated with that hat, all of the bigotry that's affiliated with that hat. And I think that in his mind, he has these delusions of grandeur to think that he alone has the ability to absolve Trump and all of his supporters of all the bigotry and hatred that is fomented inside of their movement. Go ahead, Q, and then Aaron.
I think I kind of want to take the conversation to a place where we actually have a more broader view of what's going on. Like Aaron was talking about. I made a thread last night because I've been thinking about this for a very, very long time, and I know how sacred hip hop is to us as a culture, as an art form, and I understand the radical roots of hip hop. Poor black kids and poor brown kids in the Bronx coming up with these basic principles of how to talk about their realities and their material realities in verse and rhyme and prose. That makes perfect sense. Through DJing, through graffiti, all that shit. It's radical, it's rebellious, and I understand. But like everything within this country, capitalism underdeveloped it. And what I mean is the fact that, I'm going to make this a broader point. I'm going to bring it home to Kanye. But capitalism underdeveloped hip hop. Where you look at all these corporate entities that got into the game, they basically stripped almost all of the revolutionary potential and all the revolutionary rhetoric out of the mainstream of hip hop. The last time we probably got something that was truly radical on a mainstream level, and I mean like truly radical, not just dressed up in a black aesthetic, but something that was truly radical. It was probably Tupac.
Yep.
Honestly, it really was. And probably many would even argue that Tupac is not as revolutionary as he is. Some will say they're Public Enemy.
Right.
But the number one thing that I need to point to is that capitalism via these entities has completely invaded this art form and made it something that is so desensitized, something so toothless, and something just wrapped in a black aesthetic that isn't pushing the consciousness forward of what we need. So when Kanye West comes out and he says that at the tender age of something, I can't remember, I think it was like 10, my mother was arrested at the sit-ins, and with that in my blood, I was born to be different. When Kanye West says something along the lines on his song Crack Music, and he said, "Who stopped the Black Panthers? Ronald Reagan got the answers." When he says something like that, and when he says, "Oh, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy," and he refers to hip hop as a new religion, the soul music of the slaves that the youth is singing. When you say things like that, and then you completely pivot to being Make America Great Again, I'm going to try to bring love and empathy to it, you can see how people are offended. But like Deuce brought up, and like I brought up in my thread, you have people like Killer Mike. You have people like Kendrick Lamar. You have people like Jay-Z. You have people like the Nipsey Hussles of the world. You have people like Sahai the Prince, who got on Twitter and talked about how Martin Luther King was a Republican. Wrong. You have people who spout these ideas, and not even just 2 days ago, but Chuck D, who in Public Enemy, he literally defended R. Kelly and defended Bill Cosby and deleted the tweets. You have people like David Banner. You have people who subscribe to these pseudo-scientific, these inherently anti-black, inherently conservative and fascistic views that are peddled by psychobabble, fake doctorate holding people like Francis Cress Welsing. You have people that align themselves with people like the Dr. Umars of the world, like Killer Mike does, and defended Dr. Umar. You have people like the Nipsey Hussles who collaborate with known misogynists and alleged pimps like Tariq Nasheed. You have people like them who proliferate all throughout hip hop and act like they're moving the black consciousness forward and they're doing something that's radical. And they're not. So Kanye West, while in a vacuum, it looks problematic, but Kanye West is about as hip hop is. Because there are so many black misleaders within hip hop that tout themselves as these free thinkers and these revolutionaries, or just even these authority figures. And who do we have to blame for this? Why in the world are they in authority positions? Why in the world do they have the say, and why do they have the influence to impact culture the way that they do? That is because we live in a capitalist, patriarchal society where the opinions of men who don't know what the hell they're talking about are proliferated and perpetuated by these corporate entities and put them on these big platforms. Now, it doesn't make any sense why femcs are not just as popular as male rappers are.
Right.
But the very fact of the matter is that we have people like Kanye West who think that they can put a Confederate flag on a jacket and make it and strip it of all of its venom. That's not going to happen. You have people like Kanye West who think they can put a MAGA hat on and then strip all of its venom out of it. Well, dude, I'm going to tell you what. I was in Charlottesville and I saw people with those hats on.
Right.
And they were not there with love and empathy. They were there to kill people. Wow. They were there and they did kill somebody. So it doesn't make any damn sense for Kanye West to sit here on Twitter for the last, 2 weeks and discuss about how much he loves Trump. And in that video that you're referencing, Ben, where he's talking to T.I. and he's like, and T.I. asks him the question, Kanye, what do you love about Trump? He said, I don't agree with half of what he says, but I just love the fact that he was able to persevere and win. And I love the fact that he was able to, buck the establishment and do what he did, because I love all people. Look, man, this whole positive vibes, this whole I'm on a higher frequency and I can love all people, it gets you shot out here, man. It gets you run over by a car in Charlottesville. That's what that happens. That's what that leads to.
Man.
So for Kanye West to sit here and try to strip all of these white supremacist symbols, all these white supremacist motifs of all their venom, it is completely unnecessary and just egregious. And just his rhetoric surrounding it is not only emboldening white supremacists more, but it's just making Kanye and pushing him further and further and further into a bubble where nobody but the people that agree with him are going to be around him, because he obviously doesn't have any black women around him. No, because they would have been checked.
They would have, yeah.
And if he does have black women around him, they think like Candace Owens.
God damn. Okay, I'm trying to stop you mid-sentence because, man, fellas, I'm so glad I brought you two on to discuss this, because there's no way in the world I could have discussed this in the context of, because I haven't been a hip hop head since long before. I think College Dropout was when I dropped out of hip hop. So I've been out of it for a minute, but you guys have brought some amazing context to it. Not only that, but you two are considering doing a podcast. And I think just from sitting and listening to you two today, everyone in my audience, I think that you would agree that these fellas need to get it together and go ahead and do their podcast, and whatever I can do to promote it, share it through my channels, get you an audience, because the conversation today has been phenomenal, and that's not sufficient enough to describe it. Third of all, how old are you two? If you don't mind sharing. Q, how old are you?
I am 21.
21. And Aaron, how old are you?
24.
21 and 24. Damn. I love it. I love it. Whatever y'all been reading, whatever schools y'all went to, we need to package that shit up and replace it with all the Kanye West albums out there, because I think you guys have definitely something that the people are going to need going forward. What do you guys have the name for your podcast yet?
We're thinking about it. We have a couple working titles. We're gonna chop it up, and once we have a concept completely bolted down, then Dixon will be the first person to get the scoop. So he'll be able to tell y'all what we do. So right now we don't have something, but we're going to have something very, very soon.
Okay. So there was a second clip to the TMZ video that I have to play, and I want to get your feedback on, and we're almost out of time, but it's worth taking some extra time. This is Van Lathan. I never even knew who this guy was until yesterday, but I'm glad that not only was he in the place, but he was prepared to handle Kanye West in the moment. Let's take a listen in.
Do you feel that I'm feeling? Do you feel that I'm being free and I'm thinking free?
I actually don't think you're thinking anything. I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought. And the reason why I feel like that is because Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But there is fact and real world, real life consequence behind everything that you just said. And while you are making music and being an artist and living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. Frankly, I'm disappointed, I'm appalled, and brother, I am unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something, to me, that's not real.
That brother was ready. I mean, talk about seizing the moment. If you didn't know who he was before yesterday, you know who he is now. Everyone across the country is retweeting him and talking about him, because, I mean, how often do you get an opportunity to say exactly what needs to be said, exactly how it needs to be said to the person it needs to be said to? Let's start with Aaron and then Q.
Yeah, so I'm actually glad that he's the one who spoke up and stood up to Kanye, because obviously no one else in that room was going to. Mm-hmm. And this to me opens up a broader discussion about people who kind of stand by and enable celebrities to say whatever the hell they want without repercussion or without being challenged. Yeah. It's particularly frustrating when other rappers do that, namely Chance the Rapper. Because I know he got on his he got on his Twitter, got on his soapbox and proclaimed that black people don't have to be Democrats, which is true. But Chance, you're not really saying anything beyond that. But aside from that, yeah, he was ready. And I'm glad that I'm very, very happy that he brought facts. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see like how that clip ended. I don't know if either of you guys did. All I saw was him giving his response to Kanye, and a very blunt response and very punch to the gut. And I don't know if either of you guys did. Any of you guys actually see like how that clip ended?
The last thing I saw was Kanye going over to him and saying, "I'm sorry, I hurt you, brother."
Bro, you got to be responsible, man.
Bro, I'm sorry I hurt you.
You got to be responsible.
No, I'm sorry I hurt you, bro.
Bro, your voice is too big.
That's where it cut out for me.
Well, see, he doesn't have a counter argument because he doesn't have any coherent political or social beliefs. Like, I mean, excuse my French, but Kanye is just saying shit.
That's kind of what I picked up with his response, right? Kanye, I don't know why Kanye wants to be loved. That's part of the equation. But he also wants to be popular, and he knows how to make himself popular with controversy. And then seeing that his controversy is actually hurting people, it kind of threw him for a loop. And that's what I felt in that last 2 seconds where he was like, yeah, man, brother, I'm sorry I hurt you like that. You know what I mean? But if you really believe it, maybe you could be sorry, but if you really believe it, you're not going to waver on it, right? You're going to stick to it. And so to me, it's like, I don't think that he actually believes some of the stuff that he's saying, but it's still detrimental. Whether he believes it or not, it's still harmful.
I thought that was evident. I don't know if either of you watched like all of the entire Charlemagne interview. I did because I guess I'm allergic to self-harm. But I did watch that entire Charlemagne interview, and to Charlemagne's credit, I know I have some issues with some of the things he said in the past. But to Charlemagne's credit, he did ask Kanye some very poignant and some very tough questions that he just couldn't answer.
Really?
One being that, he genuinely asked Donald Trump, and he used Kanye's, George Bush don't care about black people line against him. He asked him to his face if he thought that Donald Trump cared about black people, and Kanye honestly couldn't answer that question. Which it seems to me that either Kanye really is not genuine or he doesn't have very many convictions in his beliefs. He doesn't know what he believes because he's ignorant.
Yeah.
Or he just has like a pathological problem with being honest with himself.
That's good. That's good. Q, what do you think?
So when it comes to Van Lathan, I just really enjoyed the fact that he was ready. It's not lost on me the fact that they probably prepped him because this is TMZ, but regardless of that, it is what Kanye needed to hear. Right. But I think what's getting lost in all of this is the fact that Kanye West, I watched that entire interview, and I just honestly believe that Kanye West might have some unresolved disdain for black people. And I don't know where it stems from. If somebody in the comments can, if you feel what I'm saying, hit me up. But I think Kanye West just has some disdain for black people that he needs to hash out. And I think he just comes across as like that kid in high school who no one really wanted to talk to because he was weird, and then grew up saying black people bullied him all his life. And now he wants to hang around with white people all the time because he loves Walt Disney and Henry Ford and Steve Jobs. We get it, Kanye. But throughout the entire interview of what Deuce was referring to, Kanye would say things like, apparently there's a photo out there that I did not see of Kanye standing with the fashion director of Louis Vuitton or whatever it's called. And Deuce, I think you know what I'm talking about, where people were getting mad because the fashion director, he's black also, his name is Virgil Abloh, and Virgil Abloh captioned this Instagram picture with him and Kanye saying MLK and Martin, right? And people were like, what in the world are you talking about? That's so offensive. And then within the interview, Charlemagne asked him, what did you mean by that? And then Kanye says out his very confused ass mouth that he and Virgil, sometimes it's just, he said, I quote, sometimes our role models, they become so old and unrelatable. And I just feel like, I'm Malcolm and he's Martin and we're just more relatable now.
Wow.
And I'm just like, okay, Kanye, cool. All right. And then you have another comment where Charlamagne is talking to him about Harriet Tubman. And he's like, how do you feel about Harriet Tubman? He was like, oh, the moment I saw her about to be on the dollar bill, I invested in Bitcoin. And he was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I just don't really agree with that. And it's like, okay, I can understand certain perspectives on not wanting Harriet Tubman on settler cash. But then what Kanye is referring to is the fact that he feels like she's unrelatable because it's the same thing as Malcolm and the same thing as Martin for him. So Kanye West, the space that he's currently occupying right now within just pop culture and just like our country as like a whole is he's trying to do this whole fake deep. If I just love my oppressors enough, then I'll be able to change their minds. And that type of mentality leads you nowhere but in a ditch, and it leaves your people in a position where they're already more marginalized than they already are. So Kanye is not thinking at all, and that's what Van Lathan said. He was like, do y'all feel that I'm feeling? And that's what Kanye said. I don't know what the world that means, but then Van Lathan says, yeah, I don't think you're thinking at all. And that's exactly what the deal is. Kanye is not thinking. And it's very evident if you go on Kanye's Twitter timeline where he's retweeting all of these videos of these people that look like cult leaders talking about how Kanye has freed himself from this mental prison.
Right.
And he is no longer associating positive with negative. Well, I understand the problematic nature of bringing dichotomies of what's good and what's evil into politics a lot of the time. I actually do get that. But what Kanye is talking about is something that is completely trying to strip material objectiveness from actual reality. He's trying to say that, there is no bad. There is no good. Yeah, slavery's bad, Kanye. Like, I don't really know how any other way to speak about that. But antebellum slavery was actually horrible. Chattel slavery was pretty terrible. And throughout the interview with Charlamagne, he's talking about how there is no good or bad. Trump is not good or bad. Well, I can't judge Trump as a man. I can only judge a person by their actions. And what I'm judging from their actions is that every time he puts pen to paper, it's affecting black people, it's affecting brown people, it's affecting people overseas with imperialism, it's affecting women, femmes, LGBTQIA. It doesn't even matter. Every single time Trump puts pen to paper, it affects the most marginalized within this country. So for Kanye to be on this whole fake deep, positive vibes, if I just love my oppressors, then I'll be able to get everyone to see my point of view, is completely foolish. And I do mean this pun intended, it's tomfoolery. It's really what it is.
I love it. Fellas, I really appreciate it for you guys hanging out with me for this 45 minutes hour that we've been together. And it's a serious topic, and it matters. It absolutely matters, particularly in the black community, because of all the reasons that we outlined in this conversation. I want you to both get last words. So it could be on any topic, and tell the people how to get up with you. Let's start with you, Aaron.
I don't really have anything more to say on this topic. For me personally, I don't buy Kanye's music anymore. I don't really support him as an artist. I guess if anyone wants to link up with me, you can just hit me up on Twitter, at Deuce1042, at capital DEUCE 1042.
Cool.
I've said pretty much all I have to say. I'm washing my hands of this whole Kanye situation. I don't want to talk about him anymore.
Word. And Q, tell the people, get your last word in and tell the people how to get up with you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, man. I'm always up on there, man. It's Q got no rings. I won't explain it. If you want me to explain my Twitter name, DM me. But when it comes to my last word, I'm gonna be very quick. And as much as I would love to take Aaron's position of I just want to wash my hands of Kanye and all this, I can't, because it's my privilege as a straight black man within this country to hold other straight black men accountable. And with Kanye, and I know that I can't literally reach out to Kanye and shake him and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. I have to respond to these things because I do subscribe to the idea of what I said Angela Davis told my school. And what she told us is that artists have the ability to imagine realities that we haven't, the activist and organizer hasn't thought of yet. So you see the fact that celebrity in this country is held up very highly. You can look at celebrity within this country, and they're held more highly than the politicians are.
Absolutely. They're
held more accountable than the people that make policy are.
Absolutely.
And I think that's evident in the fact that you can look at every politician that takes corporate money or, has all these scandals, and they're not reprimanded or put in jail, all the bankers or whatever. But you look at people like, the Aziz Ansari's and the Issa Rae's who get into problematic situations, and Twitter will drag them to hell and back. Because for some reason, we put an onus on celebrity where if you're in the public spotlight, you have a duty to the public to remain this perfect individual. And I think when you refrain from subscribing to people as idols and hero worship, I think you are doing your life a much needed service. But I can't look away from Kanye, because Kanye is affecting the consciousness of kids like me who grew up 10 years old, 9 years old, listening to their music. I cannot separate the art from the artist, because Kanye is affecting their point of view. He's affecting people in my mentions who tell me, oh, well, Kanye, he kind of has a point, because, slavery, if they really wanted to, they could have just committed suicide. And the fact of the matter is that you can't just ignore celebrity within this country.
Right.
Because celebrity in this country moves the social consciousness. They move the barometer.
Yeah,
they set the trends, and they set the public discourse a lot of the times more than the politicians do.
Absolutely.
People know what Kanye West just said last night more than they know what Bernie Sanders said last year.
Right.
They know what Jay-Z said on his album more than what Elizabeth Warren said 2 days ago. Because no one's paying attention to them, because, they don't make music and they aren't fun to watch. And that's how much we worship a celebrity within this country.
Yeah.
So I think I want to close off on this fact that I understand I understand the want to find idols and find heroes and find people to believe in.
Yeah.
But what you don't understand is that these people have been catapulted into a class status that has completely removed them from the conditions of their people. These celebrities do not care about you. Even the ones that, put on incredible shows, or the ones that bring out bands at Coachella, no shots. I'm just saying, every single one of these celebrities do not care about you. They care about their bottom line. And that is why John Legend can go to Kanye's house and agree to disagree with him about the fact that he's supporting a white supremacist for president. That's why he can agree to disagree, because like I said, he can go home to his $20 million house, his beautiful wife, his beautiful child, with a 7-car garage, with more money in a day that we'll make in our entire lives, all three of us combined. They can agree to disagree. They can agree to ignore it. They can afford to be apolitical when the time to grow a spine is now.
Wow.
Because their class has catapulted them. Every single one of these celebrities do not care about you. It's a very hard thing to realize that just because somebody has the same skin color as you, they don't care about you. I wish it wasn't true. I wish Kanye was this revolutionary socialist who makes incredible music. I wish Jay-Z was this person who gave back to his neighborhood instead of gentrifying it by making the Barclays Center. I truly wish that R. Kelly was not a horrible person who made us step in the name of love instead of stepping on the necks of black girls. I really wish it was that way.
Preach, brother.
But it's not.
Preach. Wow. That is the spot that we should end right there. I do want to drop this one line from someone else who's privileged, in his celebrity, not as popular, obviously, but Wendell Pierce. He said one thing that I think is pertinent here. That's very salient. He's in terms of Kanye West. He said, I don't wish you harm, but I wish you silence. And in this case, the harm that he's causing to the black community at this time, it's time for him to just be quiet and shut up, because he's doing more harm to us than he's good. And it's our job. It's our job that none of us have the ability to touch Kanye, but we got to speak out about it, and do what we have to do. Fellas, thanks so much for hanging out with me. As soon as your podcast, as soon as you even get the name, give me the name, and I'm going to put it out to the folks, and we're going to promote what you guys do, because it's a fascinating conversation that we had today. That's it. Thanks to Q and Aaron for joining me. Thanks to all of our newest patrons. Thanks to our patrons who are sticking around. We appreciate everything that you do. We'll see everyone tomorrow with more news and headlines. Take care. Have a great day.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.